I want you all to think about a memory, one from long ago, that you can remember good details from. Now keep this memory in mind as I explain to you how it was formed and how through this process it's actually different from what happened. The first step in this process is collecting data. At any point in time, your mind is bringing in millions of bits of information from all 5 of your senses. But your mind doesn't have room to store all of these. This is where your conscious mind acts as a filter. The only things that get moved from short-term to long-term memory and are put in long-term storage is what you pay attention to, whatever your conscious mind is aware of. So immediately now, your memory is not the full picture. It is only a sliver of what actually happened. Unless you were consciously aware of what you felt or what you smelled, you're not going to remember it. The next step in the process is how this data that's put into long-term storage is stored. It has to be organized. And the way this works is through what they call schema. Now schema are just patterns that were formed at a young age. When you're learning at a young age, you learn purely through experience. And you recognize patterns. And these patterns are then used in further experience. So when you experience something later in life, it is related to things you already know from prior observations. Here's an example of this. If I show you this object, or this one, and I asked you what they were, you would tell me that you saw a circle and then a square. If you have good memory, I could ask you maybe a month from now. You could probably still tell me that. But if I asked you to consciously think what is actually there, they're not actually a circle and a square. Each is made up of 4 lines. Now, this schema is called closure. And the way it works is at a young age, you learned that things are generally full objects and are continuous. So unless you consciously analyze that there are 4 lines to each of these, your mind automatically puts it into the schema that it's just a continuous circle or continuous square. Now this is a problem with memories, because if you ever experience something new, if you're not consciously aware that it's new, you will actually remember it in terms of something old. Your mind will actually change it so it fits the patterns that it knows. And this is bad because unless you're consciously aware of this difference, you will never know that it exists. The next problem comes in with how you store the information and recall it. Most people think it works like a computer, but this is a huge misunderstanding. We can use the computer though as an analogy to help explain it. So let's say your memories are Word documents. To recall a memory, all you would do is file, open, and then you can pick whichever document you want. Now this is how you recall a memory, but the problem is with documents on a computer, every time you click it, it opens up the same document. You're viewing the same thing every time unless you actually go in and change it. With memories, when you recall it from your subconscious into your conscious mind, you actually change it. The schemas that it was originally saved under are emphasized. Things that you want to be true are emphasized, and things that aren't may be lost. Also, the problem is that whenever you rethink about it, your mood affects how you remember it. You can actually create new parts of the story based on what you want the story to represent, what you want the memory to represent. And your mind, instead of creating this new memory, a new file in your mind, it hits save. It overrides that old one. The old document can no longer be found. It's like a game of telephone where if you have an intricate story, as it's told down the line, it is different every time it's told. It changes based on the person. But with memories, you can't go back and ask the first person in line what the story actually was. This is the premise behind Frederick Barlett's theory of reconstructive memory. He says that every time you recall a memory, you change it, and in recalling it, you're not recalling the original event, but rather you are recalling how it was saved last time you remembered it. And the problem with this is the memories that I asked you to remember, if they're old memories, if they're ones you recall the most, they're probably the ones you're most fond of. And because you recall them the most, they're actually the ones that are furthest from the truth. Thank you.